Welcome back to the Global Shapers Dubai Hub podcast. I am your moderator, Sonya. Today, we're going to talk about something that feels very relevant to life in Dubai and honestly to any major global city. There's a lot of optimism, a lot of ambition, and a lot of opportunities. However, it's also a place where it's incredibly easy to spend everything that you earn, and even easier to assume that because opportunities are literally everywhere, things will somehow work out. Today's episode is about how to turn good income and optimism into real financial security in real life. I am joined by Amaan Ali from PwC Academy Middle East. He comes with a wealth of experience and is a teacher at heart. He recently spoke at Global Shaper Dubai's Level Up project, where we ran an in-person workshop on financial literacy, and the response was amazing. Amaan, welcome. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so Dubai and cities like London, New York, Hong Kong, or Singapore creates an interesting paradox. People earn well relatively, but some still feel financially anxious or unprepared. From your experience, why does that happen?
Primarily, as spending grows, we assume that our income will grow in proportion to that. So therefore, the goalpost of how much is enough always keeps on moving further and further away. So that is something which a lot of people have to be mindful of whenever they move into any metropolitan cities, such as Dubai. Furthermore, even though the salaries might be good for some people, it's not necessary that they would be able to create a steady amount of savings, as high living costs eventually eat up into the overall salary or the income base that they have. Furthermore, the constant comparison and the lifestyle pressures that we see of our peers also creates a challenge that we too must play catch up with them. And therefore, it's individuality that's important in financial planning or financial goal setting rather than comparing it to your peers. Lastly, it's not always the case where a person who has just moved anywhere in the world would have an idea as to how to manage their money, as it's not something which is inherently taught at any type of structured learning programs. More often than not, it's the lack of a clear plan which creates a lot of anxiety regarding how wealth is managed, due to which eventually people fall in the trap of spending.
That's very interesting, and I relate deeply with what you said about peer pressure because everyone else is doing amazing around us. That definitely adds a lot of pressure. Next topic is about optimism, opportunities, and overconfidence. So another Dubai-specific dynamic is definitely opportunities. We see a lot of like real estate deals, cryptos, private investment, side businesses, entrepreneurship. So everyone seems to have an idea or at least a tip. So how should people think about investment opportunities in a dynamic environment like this?
So that's absolutely true that in Dubai, a lot of people talk about real estate and they definitely talk about crypto. But at the end of the day, it's very important to remember that popularity does not always mean that it's ideal for the individual, because everyone has different risk appetites. So we need to take risk intentionally, not just because someone else is doing it or a friend of ours is doing it. We should dive headfirst in it. Furthermore, it's also necessary to note that opportunities are everywhere in terms of investments. It's not just that we have to focus on the most shiny thing or the most talked about thing. Sometimes the boring and the slow items of investments also yield quite significant results. But before it can be even discussed about investing, it's important to first have a decent foundation built. A foundation could be to have a constant cash inflow and outflow that you have predicted and budgeted. You have decided that how much you're going to be saving to keep yourself liquid in cases of any emergencies that might come up. And then lastly, when it does go to investments, it's not just supposed to be one particular type. It's not just supposed to be real estate or only crypto. You need to consider a lot of items in order to diversify yourself well. Typical ETF or a mutual fund would help you in that. So not just going for the shiny deals or the things that are most discussed is ideal for everyone. And lastly, it's also important to remember that whatever investment we take into consideration must be in line with what we want down the line to pay our future selves. So it's not always to invest in what everyone talks about, it's also to consider that what's best for us down the line as well as what's going to be ideal for us today.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, what should young professionals understand about timing the market?
Timing the market is a concept which a lot of people talk about, that when should we buy a particular item which is ideal for growth down the line in the future. The thing with timing the market is that only professionals, and that too after a lot of mistakes, are able to learn how to do it. So timing the market is not always a reliable approach. It's important to be consistent, putting in SIPs or investing small amounts on a regular basis for a long period of time, rather than trying to find that what will be the ideal spot to go ahead and invest in. And often at times it's delaying that causes us more loss rather than timing the market. So it's always ideal to look out for the long-term behavior rather than to prioritize on timing the market.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, some people around me, they're professionals in daytime. However, they're entrepreneur in the nighttime. For example, some people are even boba milk tea owner in our Dubai Global Shaper Hub. So that's interesting. How should people think about side hustles and additional income streams?
So side hustles and additional income is an absolute necessity. If you are especially a young professional, you can't just rely on one source of income. So increasing the flows of income and sources is obviously a necessary thing. But it's important to keep in mind that there's only so much time that one has and so much energy that one can spend on doing multiple things. So eventually you will have to hone down on those few side hustles that are necessary, that will eventually grow as an opportunity. Because not everything that we might be doing is necessary for growth perspective or might even be beneficial down the line. So whatever, especially in the earlier on stages, the core career of a young professional matters the most, how they perform in that. The side hustles and the additional income streams that you will gradually work towards will obviously be a high benefit. But always emphasize on growing in your core career and then complementing it with whatever side hustles that you have in plan.
That makes a lot of sense. And as a young professional working in M&A, what I find interesting is that in professional investing, we never skip the fundamentals. However, individuals often do skip the fundamentals. What are the basics people should not skip before jumping into investments?
So before investing, the prerequisites is to have your cash flow settled, to know exactly what is it that you will receive on a monthly basis, whether it is from your core salaries, from your side hustles, additional income streams, and how much are you going to be spending on a monthly basis. So that way you have a clear idea as to what is going to be the bare minimum that you need to be spending. And then you need to have a certain corpus of amount set out for your emergency fund to be liquid in case of any type of unforeseen emergency where you need to have that cash readily available, because putting up everything into an investment might tie it down for a long period of time. Then the next thing to look out for is any type of debt, if they might have taken, if they have extensive credit cards that they need to settle on a monthly basis. If and when these factors are factored in, considered, and now you can decide that, okay, when I want to go for investment, the three main things I want to look out for is, what is my time horizon? For how long do I want to invest? And for how long do I want to be invested in this particular asset class, whatever it may be. Second thing is to identify that what is the best options available, whether it is in terms of different types of investment products, whether it is about your own risk appetite, that you're always secure to invest in bonds rather than going for mutual funds, or even if it's just simple basic fixed deposits or wakala deposits that are offered here in the UAE. So diversification will ensure that wherever your investments are will give you a well-rounded result. But it's important to always set the foundations in mind before you progress into investments.
Very helpful. And next, let's talk about spending, lifestyle, and social pressure. So in cities like Dubai, social life, traveling, fine dining, and lifestyle are a big part of the experience, which are so expensive, to be honest. Is enjoying life incompatible with good financial planning?
The obvious answer is no. It's important to have a balance of both the good life and also be financially literate and financially mindful of what you want to do with your lump sum amount of cash. So, enjoying life and financial planning are not two separate highways. They do have to go in line with one another. The problem that a lot of people face, especially young individuals when they're recently up and coming in their jobs, is that they decide to spend unintentionally, and when that happens, that creates a problem down the line. Today, you might live off, have a good time, but eventually these habits will snowball into an effect which is detrimental for our future. So we have to keep our lifestyle values in mind with what you want to be seeing yourself doing down the line in the future. How is it going to help you out? How is it going to pay for you? And one obvious problem that a lot of people face is the pressure, the habits of other people that you surround yourself with, due to which you also fall in that same rut of going about spending money aimlessly without being mindful of what's necessary, what's not. So it's important to spend money, be conscious about it, but do it within the means of your income. Do not be excessive in order to enjoy the fancy lifestyle that Dubai has to offer. It is there for all, but it's not available or it's not ideally beneficial for everyone to consume it.
And how do you help people strike a balance between enjoying the present and not sacrificing their future?
So that's a very important question. Especially earlier on, it's important to have a balance in the sense of what is it that you want to be doing today and how is it that you will be perceiving your future self. So you need to enjoy both the present and the future security that you might need. So start off by small incremental steps of saving, of ensuring that you have enough amount of corpus available for any emergencies that might happen, and then build a habit one by one to spend your money consciously. Have a travel fund for any particular year that you want to go about traveling. If it's a birthday of a close friend of yours, have a budget for that. Like how much do you want to spend on it? What gift do you want to give? So create a structure for yourself so that you feel consciously happy about whatever expenditure you do rather than guilt that we have spent more than what I should have, due to which eventually a lot of people again fall into the spending trap.
Thank you. And lastly, let's build practical framework for global city professionals. So let's imagine someone just moved to Dubai. They have a good salary, they are ambitious, and then they want to do things in the right way. What should their first few financial priorities be?
So the basics to get started with financial priorities is to obviously inform your cash inflows. To understand that are you just going to be working on your core job, or as you mentioned, having side hustles. Consider that and then figure out that how much are you going to be spending on a monthly basis, whether it is your rent, your utilities, your car insurance, any other type of investment plans that you have which you are already committed to, etc. Once you have a clear idea as to what is going to be the inflow and outflow, and you know that this is the amount of money that will be left at the end of the month, now gradually work towards building an emergency fund for yourself or a buffer. Especially we are in an area or a region where everything is linked to residency, which is provided through our employment. So it's important to have a backup if in case things don't go as planned. Finally, after that, provide yourself with a sustainable living option. Put the basic in mind first. So what is the absolute necessary things that you need? Then understand what is your wants, and gradually then set aside on your savings plans. Now, savings plans again go firstly for the most liquid items, easily accessible to yourselves, any type of saving funds, wakala deposits, national bonds. Ensure that you diversify yourself in the earlier stages. And then gradually start investing depending on your risk appetite. Typically, young professionals can be more risk seeking, so therefore go for shares, more high risk in mutual funds. And then gradually, as you go from a young professional to mid career, you can decide to change your risk appetite and how your investment strategy would be.
And if they only focused on three things only in their first year, What should those be?
Three things typically would start by learning and observing what good financial literacy means. So this would be always an ongoing process. It doesn't necessarily have to restrict itself to the first year. Surrounding yourself with people that are also financially literate and making decisions that are financially mindful. And then spending within your means, not going beyond that. And last and most important of all is to protect your flexibility, the ability to do what you want with the amount of cash that you have, so that you can protect yourself against any downsides that might arise and also pay your future self down the line.
That's interesting. And Dubai stands out also because it's a city ever changing. I mean, it's changing for the good, of course, but how should people think about financial goals in a city where plans often change?
So goals should be flexible with the individual's lifetime. It shouldn't be rigid. It shouldn't be hard and fast that this is something that must be done. It must be changing. It must be flexible to your own personal preference. You might be currently in an employment which gives you the flexibility of, say, for example, working from home for 2 out of the 5 days. So you have 3 days that you have to be physically present in office. So you have to spend according to that much. So your transportation cost, etc., would change your budget. Similarly, if you were to switch a role where you're allowed to work 4 days and from home, 1 day at office, your budget will again change accordingly. So it's important to always be flexible with regards to your goal setting. Then when your goal is set, you need to have an aimed direction, that where is it exactly that you want to be in, let's say, so 2 years time. Start always with a small time horizon. It'll make it easier to manage, easier to adapt, and then always review it regularly so that you don't lock yourself into anything that is irreversible, and then gradually build on that.
That's interesting. Now I think our audience, they are aware of the importance of financial literacy. But when it comes to practice, what types of financial resources should every young professional be aware of?
So a financial resources is a vast of items. Some basics that we can obviously keep in mind is that look out for your own employer's benefits and their own employer's policies. A lot of employers do provide employees on an advice or an idea at least on what are the investment plans that they provide, depending on the different ranges of investments that they have. Then obviously a bare necessity is to look out for certain banking and credit card tools. And then obviously a lot of educational content. Some few books to keep in mind in order to help you be well read and obviously expand as you go about in your financial literacy journey would be The Psychology of Money and also The Art of Spending Money. Both are good reads by Morgan Housel, which takes the reader step by step on what is necessary, how to think about your relationship with money, and how to spend in a way that is ideal. Eventually, when you come to a point where you're going to be making a very important decision, which you yourself cannot solely rely on, at that point, seek advice. But seeking advice isn't an absolute must from the get-go.
As a young person, I often feel overwhelmed when I learn about money, especially there are so many financial products out there like bonds, equities, ETFs, and real estate, and so on, and even cryptos. So, how can people learn about money without feeling overwhelmed?
So it's important to start small. That means pick one item, understand it, discuss it with people, join groups that are involved in money management or talk about money literacy, and understand one topic at a time. Then understand that what is it that you want to achieve, what are your decisions. Do not get engrossed in the products offering. A very common problem that a lot of people face, especially starting on, is that they get involved with the products that are being offered by different banks, brokers, etc. It's important to understand that what is it specifically for you? How is it going to affect you, whether it is in today's time or down the line, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it may be. And then gradually try to absorb the information that is there. Do not try learning too many things at one go. You will eventually then become overwhelmed. So it's always important to start small and then gradually increase the wealth of information.
It's also important for people to build their own financial toolkit. How can they do that?
A financial toolkit for different individuals would look quite different. So the basics that pretty much everyone would have is a simple budgeting tool or a tracking tool, which lets them know that how much are they spending, how much are they earning. This could be either one of the free apps that are there, or someone could create an Excel file to keep a track of it. Then relying on a learning resource. A learning resource, again, it could be anyone of a trusted influencer, a decent YouTube channel, or even any LinkedIn influencers that are there. And then finally, bringing up a financial literacy or a financial accountability habit. That could be whether it is being strict about spending, whether it is about strict to create an emergency fund in a specific time frame. And as time goes by, then eventually you can obviously onboard a professional advisor that can help you with managing the larger decisions.
That's very insightful and practical. So to close us out, I would love for you to speak directly to our listeners. So for someone living in Dubai or any other major global city, earning well, optimistic about their future, however, unsure whether they're truly building long-term financial security, what is one question you would want them to reflect on after listening to this episode?
So, the one question I would like everyone to ask themselves, and again, the answer would differ from individual to individual, is that whatever money you have, are you using it intentionally to build a life that you want, or are you simply responding to what the changes happening around you?
Amazing. Amaan, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everyone who's listening. We'll see you next time.